Hello everyone, this is Nicole Steele of thejoyfulstamper.com and I'm back this Saturday for another card based upon my weekly Saturday sketch. Now the Saturday sketch comes from Splitcoaststampers website, but I make a card for them every week for their sketch, and so I put a graphic on my blog, thejoyfulstamper.com. It's got the sketch drawing itself that you can pin. I have a written tutorial for the card I'm making, and I've got this video. So I hope you guys enjoy these. If you are liking them, make sure to leave me a comment below, because I love to hear from you guys. So I have another Christmas card for you today. I hope you aren't tired of seeing Christmas cards. Actually, this is only my second one, so we're all good. But don't you like this? I like the mix of the cardinal with this buffalo check background, and I love how fluffy this is. So let's get started because I have a couple tips and tricks in this card to show you. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is start off with an 8.5 inch by 5.5 inch piece of real red cardstock, and I've scored it down the middle with a bone folder here at 4 1/4 inch. And I will have all these measurements in the written tutorial on my blog, so you'll be able to go get that there. Okay, so our card's going to be opening this way, so that's how we're going to work with this. Now, I stamped the buffalo check background directly on this card base here. So here's what I did. You can get Stampin' Up's background stamps either on a wood mount or on a cling mount. I choose to buy mine in the cling mount, and I leave them in the case. They stick, so they kind of act like a block. And for this one, I'm going to take Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I'm going to press it down on this stamp. Now you can also use a Stamparatus with these background stamps too if you want to get a very, very crisp, sharp image, or if you have trouble stamping them using a block, but I'm okay with this. So I leave mine in the case, and now I'm going to take my card and I'm going to gently lay it right on top of that. Just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a stamp block and I'm just going to rub it over the card base a little bit, applying even pressure. And now I'm going to carefully remove it from that. And I've got my buffalo check background. Now see those little splotches in there? If you were using the Stamparatus, you could simply re-ink this background stamp and then push it back down again on it, and it would, because nothing had moved, it would re-stamp again, and you can keep doing that over and over until you get the image as crisp and clear as you want. I'm okay with this go, and I actually like those little splotches. I think it gives it a really rustic texture that I just love. Okay, so we're done with the background stamp, and next we are going to pull in a piece of basic black cardstock and a piece, oh and goodness, I hope I'm saying this right, Toile Tidings, T-O-I-L-E, Toile Tidings Designer Series paper. Now this paper comes in 12 by 12 sheets, and I love the vintage pattern on it, and it's garden green on one side and real red on the other side. So you can choose to use whichever color you want. I'm going to take a stamping sponge and a soft suede ink pad, and I'm going to add to this vintage feel by sponging the edges. I've already gone ahead and sponged 3 of the sides, and I'm going to show you how to do the 4th side. So I tap my sponge in the ink pad, and then I'm going to lightly brush it against the edge of the paper. Now my stamping sponges are cut down into 8 pieces, because the sponges themselves come in these big round circles, way too difficult to handle and way more than you need. So cut them down to 4 to 8 pieces, and you'll get a lot more mileage out of them. Okay, and you just keep sponging on the color until you're happy with the way it looks. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to close my ink pad and put that away. And now I'm going to glue these 2 pieces together, and all that requires is the multi-purpose liquid glue. Now I do not like to have a heavy hand with this because it'll splooge out the sides and just get oozy and gooey everywhere. So I just run a thin line around the 4 sides, and I usually put like a little dot in the middle. Okay, Something I'm really liking lately are the really skinny borders, so these really skinny cardstock mats. So this is a 1/16 of an inch border around this piece, but I just love the way it just very subtly highlights the pattern paper. So, oh, this is looking good. Okay, so we've got that done. And the next thing I'm going to show you is coloring ribbon. So I'm going to use a Stampin' Blend marker, specifically a dark real red one, and I'm going to use the brush tip. And I took a spool. This is the original ribbon. It's gold metallic edged ribbon, and it's very vanilla. But I'm going to use my Stampin' Blends to color it. So what that means is you can make the ribbon any color you want if you have the Stampin' Blends marker. So I've already gone ahead and I've colored most of it. Now we're going to do the rest of it right here. So you just take your brush tip, and it doesn't really matter which side, and just brush it against the ribbon. Do you see how easily that flows out? This is alcohol ink, so it comes out fast and it's very absorbent into whatever you're coloring. And make sure you have scratch paper underneath whatever ribbon you're coloring, because it colors the other side without you even having to do that. It just bleeds right through. So, and then cap your marker when you're done so it doesn't dry out. But it's so easy, and you can just go ahead with the brush tip and just go the whole length. Now when it dries, the ribbon will feel a little bit stiffer than when it came off the roll, but I'm going to go over a few spots here. But it's going to be tied around your card. It's not like anyone's draping themselves in it. So, and it looks so pretty. When I discovered this tip, well, I didn't discover it, but when I heard about this tip, I was so excited because I have so many Stampin' Blends markers, and it opened up a whole world of color to me. Now I'm going to tie this around this panel here, and I'm going to tie it in a bow. I always get so nervous tying bows on camera because I like to fuss with them, and I know it's super boring watching somebody do that, but oh, I'm really happy. I got it the first try. Yay. Now I'm going to trim it down. There we go. Oh my gosh, this is looking so pretty. I love that gold mixed with the richness of this red and the black. It just makes it look so elegant. This is going to be a really nice Christmas card. Okay, so then the next thing I want to do is I want to start stamping all the little elements and bits and pieces that are going to go on my card. So I'm taking a piece of real red cardstock, and you do not need one this big. You do not need this one this big. I just didn't cut it down. And I'm going to use Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And here's the stamp set I'm using. I'm going to pull out this cardinal image here. And I'm going to stamp him in Memento Tuxedo Black ink on this piece of real red cardstock. And I'll put him down here. Actually, I'm going to stamp him this way just to conserve paper. Okay. That looks so nice and rich. Okay, so now here's the thing. This stamp set actually has dies right here. Cuts out the branch, the cardinal, the two banner sentiments in there. I don't have this die set though. I love to fussy cut. So I just took a pair of paper snips and I cut him out. But if you don't like to hand trim stuff, by all means go ahead and use the dies. You'll save yourself some time, and it'll cut this image out. But I already went ahead and I did that ahead of time because you don't need to watch me cut. So I have my cardinal done right there. And now the next thing I'm going to do, and I'll show you this little trick. So I have these branches here. There's 3 of them. There is a die for them. I'm going to show you though how I got the multi-colors on them because they're 3 different colors: garden green, crumb cake, and cherry cobbler. So for this one, I'm actually going to use Stampin' Write markers. We used a Stampin' Blends marker to color the ribbon. To color on your red rubber stamps, you want to use a Stampin' Write marker. The reason being, if you use a Stampin' Blends, which is alcohol ink, you're going to ruin your red rubber stamps. Alcohol ink, not good for that. Not good for them. But the Stampin' Up markers are just fine. They're water-based dye inks. So what I'm doing, I'm going to stamp on Very Vanilla cardstock. So I've got that ready. I've got my branch image here. And what I'm going to do is I'm first going to start with the brush tip end of a cherry cobbler marker. And I'm going to color the little berries on this image, right on the stamp. This is one of my favorite ways to use a Stampin' Up marker. Getting these multicolored images is so much fun, and it's so much easier than trying to ink them up with a variety of ink pads, because sometimes the ink pads are too big, unless you have a Stampin' Spot. Then I've got a garden green marker, and I'm going to color the leaves on this stamp in this marker. Now the other end of this Stampin' Up marker is a very skinny fine tip. Not good at all for coloring. It would be for writing and journaling. But this brush tip was made for this. Okay. And now the next thing I'm going to use is a Crumb Cake Stampin' Up marker. Now for this one, because I don't want to contaminate my tip with the berries or the leaves, I'm going to start from the bottom of the branch and work my way up. And as I work my way up, if my tip happens to get into the garden green or the cherry cobbler that I've already put on this image, I can just scribble it off onto some scratch paper until it comes back to its original color, and then continue coloring. So don't be afraid to use your markers. Don't be afraid to use your tools. That's what they're there for. That's what you bought them for. So use them. Don't leave them sit there. Okay, this is going to look good. Now, once I've colored my stamp image, I want to breathe on it, or we call it huffing. And what that does is it re-wets the ink. And then you can go ahead and press it to your cardstock. And look at that multicolored image. So pretty. Now, for an even more softer effect, I'm going to take a water brush, and my tip of this is wet because there's water in the barrel, and I'm going to very lightly brush it up this branch, just the branch. And what that's going to do is, because those Stampin' Up markers are water-based dye ink, it reacts with the water in this brush and it bleeds a little bit, and it makes the look really soft, and I just love this. So then you can go ahead and either use the Christmas cardinal dies to die cut 3 of these out. So you would do this 3 times, or you can use paper snips to trim them out. Now, if you don't, there's a lot of reasons why you may or may not use dies. The paper snips are only $10. So if you're on a stamping budget, these are super sharp, and it's, with a little practice, you'll get very good at fussy cutting these images out. So there really isn't a need, if you're on a budget, to invest in dies, and you're not going to miss out on anything. Just buy a $10 pair of paper snips and you're good to go. It's what I do. I do have some dies, but I don't buy dies for every single set I own. I just don't want to be honest. And you can create beautiful projects anyways. So now I've got these 3 branches, and the next thing I'm going to do is take a smaller piece of basic black cardstock, and I am going to heat emboss Christmas wishes on here. So what I'm going to do is take Versamark ink. That's a clear ink. Ink up Christmas wishes, and I'm going to stamp it on this basic black piece of cardstock. Now it's a sticky ink, so you'll probably have to peel the paper off of it. Then what I want to do is take my embossing powder. Now it comes in a little jar, but I dump them. I buy multiples and dump them in these plastic containers and put a spoon in there so that it's much easier to spoon them out and contain the mess. Give it a little flick to get off the extra powder. And then what you'll do is heat up your heat tool to get it to melt. Okay, now again, in the Christmas Cardinal die set, there is a die to cut this out. I just use my paper snips and cut it out. So now I've got my pieces all here ready to assemble on my card. I'm going to stick this down first with liquid glue. So how do you stamp? Do you start with your card base and work your way up, or do you start with the main panel and work your way down? I always start with my card base. And the other thing too is, I mean, do you stamp all your images before you start putting your card together, or do you just kind of piecemeal it as you go along? There's so many different ways. It's kind of like how you eat a meal, right? I mean, I tend to eat all of one food first before moving on to the next one, and I save my favorite dish for last. So I guess I'm a work first, play later kind of girl, right? Now, because I want these to have that nice, organic, fluffy look at the ends, I'm going to use mini glue dots to adhere all of these, and they're going to get adhered underneath this ribbon here. So I'm going to peel back the wax paper on my roll of glue dots, and I'm going to stick the branches on these, just like that. And then I'm going to start building my layers, okay? So I've got my first one here, and I'll tuck it under like that. Now I'm only lightly adhering it right now. I'm not pressing down too hard because I might want to lift them up to readjust them. Once I have them where I want them, then I'll press down harder. So, okay, this is how I want them. So I will press down on it to stick it down. Okay, now this is a little too floppy and fluffy, but once we put our cardinal on here, it's going to hold really nicely. So let's add some dimensionals to my cardinal, and I'm still using the ends of my sheet of dimensionals. I do not waste anything. I'm kind of frugal with my craft dollars in that I'm not a gotta have it girl. Yes, I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator. Yes, I sell their products because I absolutely love using them and I'm so excited to share it with other people. But I'm not a gotta have it girl. I don't have to have the whole collection. And I mean, how many times have I said I don't own the dies? I just use my paper snips. Okay, and we're gonna stick this this cardinal, just like that. And now this Christmas Wishes piece, I'm going to use multi-purpose liquid glue to put him down across the cardinal. I'm going to have so many Christmas cards by the time it actually comes time to mail these things. So I might just put out an open call for if anybody wants Christmas cards, let me know. I can mail some to you. Now for the inside of my card, because it's too dark to write on this real red, so I'm going to put a layer of Very Vanilla in here, but I wanted to make it fancy, so I used the Ornate Layers dies to die cut a piece of Very Vanilla cardstock. And let's turn it the right way. I'm going to stamp in real red a sentiment for the inside of my card, and it comes from that Toile Christmas stamp set. May this season be filled with beautiful moments and happy memories for you and those you hold most dear. We're not done yet though. There's this pretty little swirl in there. I'm going to stamp it in real red ink and put one at the top above that sentiment, and I'm going to flip it and put it right below it too. Doesn't that look so elegant? This is the magic of stamping. I can't draw worth a lick, but I can stamp. And I can't grow flowers at all, but I can stamp them. So stamping lets me do so many things that I actually can't do in real life, and I love it. Okay, there we go. There's our Saturday sketch card. You like? Oh wait, no, we've got more. We're not done yet. I've got some Gilded Gems here. I want to tuck these into the branches. Now, of course, you can leave these off if you want to, but why would you? Why would you? They're so pretty. And I like the idea of them being sort of tucked and hidden away here. kind of like a little Christmas surprise. Oh, there we go. Now we are finished. Now we can say we're done. Oh goodness, so if you want to print out the sketch for this, if you want to print out the written tutorial for this, just head to my blog, thejoyfulstamper.com. If you need any of the supplies to make this card, I would so appreciate you choosing me as your demonstrator. I do have an online store, shopwithnicole.stampinup.net, and be sure to hit the subscribe button and the little bell right here on YouTube so you can be notified whenever I post a video. I usually have one every Saturday, and I post the replay of my Facebook Live every week here too. So thank you so much for joining me today, guys, and I really hope you have a magnificent weekend stamping. Bye.